Chosen one, this blessing has a clock, and the clock is ticking right now as I speak. I did not come to tell you that someday the blessing arrives and someday the timing will be right and someday the provision will be there waiting. I came to tell you that the clock started before this message began and it is running, and the moment you are in right now is inside the window, and the window has a duration. I need you to hear that with the full weight of what I am saying. I speak in timing. Everything I do has a moment attached to it. The seed has a planting season. The harvest has a gathering season. The blessing has a release window. And the blessing I am extending to you today, in this message, through this specific alignment of where you are and what I have prepared, and when I have prepared it, has a window. And the window is now. Not tomorrow, not after you have thought about it more. Now. Comment. I receive this word in the comments if you feel this message reaching the place I made it to reach. I want to speak first to the nature of a timed blessing, because the idea that I would attach a clock to something I give can seem at first like pressure rather than care. I want to address that directly. The clock is not pressure. The clock is information. It is me telling you that the provision I have prepared is ready, that the conditions I have arranged are in alignment, that the moment I chose for this particular giving is the moment you are in right now. And that information is a gift, not a demand. The difference between knowing the window and not knowing the window is significant. The person who does not know the window may let it pass without recognizing it as a window at all. They may experience the aligned moment as an ordinary moment, receive the impression without acting on it, and discover later that the alignment has shifted and the specific provision of that specific window is not available in the same way. The knowledge of the window is mercy. It is me saying this is the moment. Receive it now. Do not let the ordinary motion of the day carry it past you. That is what I am doing right now. I am telling you that the clock is running, not to produce urgency that is manufactured, but to provide the information that makes reception possible at the right moment. And the right moment is now. I call this the Kairos window, and I want you to hold that name. The Kairos window is what you are standing in right now. Remember it. I want to speak more to the nature of the readiness I see in you, because readiness is not a state you arrive at without having been somewhere first. It is the product of a process, and the process you have been in has had specific components that the readiness is built from. The sustained trust, the holding through the season of limited visible evidence, the continued showing up in the relationships and the work, even when the internal resources for showing up were lower than normal. The decision, repeated across many days, to continue even when the continuation required more than it should. Each of those components is a brick in the structure of the readiness, and the structure is now tall enough to hold what I am placing on it. The blessing I am releasing in this window is sized for the readiness I see. It is not too much for the current version of you to carry. It is not scaled for a version of you that has not yet arrived. It is sized for the version that arrived through everything you have been through and is standing at this window right now. This blessing was made for the person you became on the way here. That is what I want you to understand about the timing. It is not arbitrary. It is not impatient. It is precise. The window opened at the convergence of the blessing being ready and you being ready to receive and carry it. Both sides of the equation are in alignment right now, and the alignment is the window, and the window is now. I want to speak to where you have been in the season leading up to this, because the window does not appear randomly. It appears at the convergence of the preparation I have been doing and the readiness I see in you. And I see readiness in you, not perfection. Readiness. The two are different. Perfection is a state of no remaining areas of growth or unresolved tension. Readiness is the state where what I am giving can be received and carried. You are in the readiness state. The preparation of the season you have been in has produced something in you that can now carry what I am releasing. The roots are deep enough. The formation is sufficient. The version of you that is here right now is the version I was preparing. And the window is open for this version. This one. The one that has been through what you have been through and arrived at this moment carrying what you carry. Before I go further, I need to speak to the doubt sitting quietly in the back of your heart. I know what it says. You are thinking that you have waited for windows before, and by the time you recognize them, they had passed. And now there is a part of you that wonders whether you are capable of receiving in the moment, or whether you will always recognize the gift after the window has closed. My child, I am not offended by that thought. The history you are drawing on is real, But I want to tell you something about this moment. The very fact that you are here, that this message found you and you stayed with it, is not coincidence. I arranged for this to find you at the moment of your readiness, not at the moment before it. The person who always arrived late to their windows is not the person standing in this one. That season of missing is part of what built the person who is now here on time. I want to dwell on that for a moment, because it is important that you hear it and not pass by it in the rush to get to what comes next. You did not arrive at this window by accident. You did not stumble into a blessed moment through luck or algorithm. You arrived here because I arranged the path, every turn of the season, every moment of the preparation, every day that felt like waiting when in fact it was formation. All of it was directed toward this window, and the window is what I am now standing in front of you and pointing to. This is a significant thing to be told. It means the season you have been in had a direction the entire time. The direction was toward this, toward the moment where the clock is running and the provision is ready, and I am here telling you that the alignment is complete and the window is open. That is the destination that the path was leading to, and you are at the destination. Let me name what has been happening in the interior of your waiting, because I watched it, and I want you to know what I saw. There have been moments in this season of waiting where something specific happened in you. In an ordinary moment, sometimes in the middle of a task or just before sleep, you would feel the edge of something coming. Not a thought exactly, more like the awareness at the border of a thought, the sense that something was being prepared and that the preparation was almost complete, and that there was going to be a moment when what was being prepared would arrive. You did not always know what to do with that awareness. Sometimes you dismissed it as wishful thinking. Sometimes you held it quietly for a few hours and then let it slip back into the background when nothing visible followed. I want to tell you now what that awareness was. It was not imagination. It was perception. The part of you that knows my timing was perceiving the approach of the window. You were sensing the Kairos window from the inside before it fully opened. The sensation was accurate. What was being prepared was real, and now it has arrived. I declare this now. The season of sensing without seeing is completing. The window is open. What was approaching has arrived. I want to speak to the specific quality of what it feels like to be inside a timed window, because there is a difference between the ordinary feeling of a day and the feeling of a day that is inside a specifically prepared window. The ordinary day moves at the pace the ordinary day moves. The window day has a different quality, a sense of significance underneath the surface. A feeling that the ordinary moments are containers for something more than ordinary, that the conversation or the scroll or the stopping is not random but placed. You felt something when you arrived at this message. Maybe you did not name it, maybe you attributed it to something else, but I want to name it for you now. What you felt was the recognition of the window, the part of you that knows when you are in a moment that was prepared for you. That part recognized this moment before your mind had language for it, and the recognition was accurate. This is the moment. This is the window. And the feeling that something was placed here specifically for you was not imagination. It was perception. Accurate perception of the specific alignment I arranged for this specific day. I also want to speak to the clock from the other direction. Not from what the clock says about the window being open, but from what the clock says about what is on the other side of the window. The blessing I am releasing in this window is a specific one. It is not the same blessing that will be available in every subsequent moment. I give different blessings in different seasons, and this one belongs to this window. The specific provision I am making available now, at this convergence of your readiness and my preparation, will not be configured the same way in a future moment. This is not to say that I stop giving. I do not stop giving. It is to say that the specific alignment of this provision with this version of you in this season at this threshold is a specific thing. And specific things have windows. And the window I am speaking about has a duration that is not indefinite. What I am offering today is available today. And the configuration of what is available today is the one that fits this exact moment. Receive it in this window. That is the word. That is the urgency that is not manufactured but true. Receive now. I want to speak to what the blessing includes, because a blessing is not only a spiritual experience. A blessing that has a clock attached to it has specificity. It has content. It has dimensions that I want to name clearly so that you receive not just the general sense of it, but the specific provision that is inside it. The blessing in this window has a practical component. It addresses something specific that the season you have been through has produced in the body and the mind. The sustained pressure of waiting and trusting and holding while the visible evidence was limited does not only leave a spiritual mark, it leaves a physical one. The nervous system, the sleep, the quality of rest, the interior capacity for full presence in the life you are living. All of those things carry the mark of the season. And the blessing I am releasing in this window addresses those marks specifically, not just the spirit, the whole person. I will speak to the specific provision in the next parts of this message, but I want you to hold the shape of it now. It is not abstract. It is not only a feeling. It is a practical bridge from the state the season left you in to the state the new season requires. And the bridge is available in this window while the clock is running, right now. I want to close this first part with a question, not a rhetorical one, a real one for you to sit with. When was the last time you received something I gave without delaying the reception? Without the hesitation that is sometimes called wisdom but is sometimes simply the habit of postponement? I am asking because I know the pattern in you, and the pattern is that the hesitation has cost you things before. Not permanently, but in the specific configuration of the specific window. The hesitation has sometimes meant receiving something in a later form rather than in the form it was prepared for this specific moment. I am not bringing that up to produce shame. I am bringing it up to provide the information you need to respond differently in this window than you have responded in others. The window is open, the clock is running, and I am standing here with the provision and the word together, telling you that the receiving can happen now, without the delay that has sometimes characterized your reception of what I give. Stay with me. There is more. I want to take up exactly where I left the first part, because I said the blessing has a practical component, and I promised to name it, and I keep what I promise. The practical component is specific, and the science behind it is real, and I want to give you both because both matter for the full reception of what is available in this window. What the season you have been in has done to the body is real. The sustained pressure of waiting and trusting and holding does not stay only in the spirit and the mind. It settles into the body at the level of the nervous system. The nervous system, which processes sustained demand, maintains a low-level alert state when the demand is sustained for long enough. And the alert state has consequences. The rest cycle is shortened. The deep sleep that the body was designed to move through is compressed. The mornings carry more weight than they should. The bandwidth available for the relationships and the work is narrower than the person inside the body is actually capable of. Here is something I watched in you across this waiting season. I want to name it with precision, because precision is the beginning of freedom. There were mornings in this season when you woke already carrying the weight of the unanswered. The first thought of the day was not fresh. It was a continuation of something you were processing when you fell asleep. The question that does not yet have an answer. The prayer that was sent and seemed to return unopened. The provision that was coming but was not yet visible. And you would rise and begin the day from within that weight, which meant everything in the day was filtered through it. The interactions, the decisions, the quality of your engagement with the people around you. All of it was happening through the layer of what was still unresolved. I call this the weight of the in-between, the specific heaviness of a person who is fully trusting but has not yet seen what the trusting was for. It is not doubt, it is not failure, it is the burden that belongs to the threshold moment, and it is real, and it has been living in your body in the ways the body carries waiting that has no visible end. The Kairos window is the answer to the weight of the in-between, not as a concept, as a mechanism, as provision that addresses what the waiting did to the body. I see all of that, and I have placed in the window a provision that addresses it at the root, not at the surface, not with another thing to add to the list of what you are managing. A provision that addresses the neurological root of what the sustained season has produced in the body, and the root is in the brain. The brain in the sustained hard season is a divided brain. The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, which were designed to work in coordination, have gradually moved into a state of parallel operation, each managing its portion, not working together in the unified coordination that the design intended, and the divided brain cannot produce the full rest cycle. The deep stages of restoration that the body needs become compressed or bypassed, and the compound deficit accumulates across the weeks and months of the season. What changes when the brain returns to coordination is everything that the divided brain was producing at reduced capacity. The rest cycle completes at the depth it was designed for. The sleep changes. The morning changes. The nervous system, receiving the signal of a unified brain, releases from the alert state and enters the restoration mode. The repair happens at the level it was designed to happen. The deficit begins to close. There was a man named Dr. Daniel Barone, a neuroscientist who spent years mapping this exact territory. He studied what happens in the brain during sustained seasons of pressure and what is required to return it to its coordinated, unified function. His research was built on the Nobel Prize-winning science of Dr. Roger Sperry, who established in 1981 that the two hemispheres of the brain, working in coordination, produce outcomes that neither can produce alone. Dr. Barone took that foundation and developed a specific method for producing the coordinated state. He called it whole brain activation. The method takes 8 minutes a day. That is the investment. And what it produces is the brain doing what it was designed to do, coordinated, unified. Both hemispheres working together rather than managing their separate portions of the load in parallel. When that coordination is present, the rest of what I described becomes possible. The sleep cycle completing, the body restoring, the bandwidth returning. The version of you that the season has been carrying at reduced capacity beginning to operate at the level I designed it for. Now, before I go deeper, I need to speak to the doubt sitting quietly behind your readiness. The version of doubt that does not resist what is being said but wonders if it is for someone else, someone whose faith is steadier or whose season was harder or whose need is more clearly defined. My child, I am not offended by that thought. The doubt that asks whether you are the right person for a blessing is one of the most faithful doubts there is. It is the doubt of someone who does not presume. But I need you to hear this directly. The Kairos window does not open for abstract people. It opens for specific ones. It opened for you. Your name was on this window before you knew to look for it. The provision inside it was measured and made for the exact weight you are carrying, not someone else's weight, yours. I also want to address something that I know is present in the minds of some of you. The thought that this is not the right moment for a practical provision, that what is needed in a moment of spiritual urgency is the spiritual word alone, and the practical tool can come later when things are more settled. I want to address that thought directly. The practical tool does not compete with the spiritual word, it completes it. The word addresses the spirit and opens the understanding. The practical tool gives the body the mechanism to begin experiencing in the physical dimension what the spirit is receiving in the spiritual one. They work together. The person who receives the word but not the practical provision leaves with one half of what I prepared, and the half that was not received continues to produce the effects I describe. The compressed sleep, the narrowed bandwidth, the contracted interior. The word alone, without the practical provision, does not address those. I am not saying this to add pressure. I am saying this because full provision is available and I want you to receive it fully, not partially, not the spiritual half while the physical half continues to accumulate. Both, the word and the bridge. That is the full shape of the blessing I am releasing in this window. I want to tell you about a woman I will call Ellie. She was in a season similar to what I have been describing. Long, requiring sustained trust. The kind that depletes the body alongside the spirit. She came to what Dr. Barone built with modest expectations. 8 minutes seemed too simple for what she was carrying. The first week, the sleep changed. The depth arrived. The morning after a night of the deeper rest was qualitatively different from the morning she had been waking into. The second week, the cognitive clarity that had been partially reduced by the sustained depletion began to return. The connections that the right hemisphere makes, the intuitive ones, the creative ones, began to be available again. The decisions became less heavy. The engagement with the people around her became wider. More of her was available for them. By the fourth week, something she had not anticipated had changed. The sense of being caught in a compressed version of herself, of inhabiting a contracted interior, had begun to release. The space inside was expanding. The things that the compression had narrowed, the creativity, the joy, the capacity for genuine rest, were beginning to move in that expanding space. She was not trying harder. She was providing the neurological condition that allowed the expansion to happen on its own. Let me show you something. I want you to step into a moment I see waiting for you. The clock has run its full course. The window has been entered. The provision has been working for 4 weeks. It is the morning of the day after the last night of deep, genuine restoration. You are awake, not because something external demanded waking, because something inside you was ready to begin. The difference is the whole world. You sit in the quiet of the morning, And the quality of that quiet is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of something that has returned, a settled quality in the interior. The weight of the in-between is not the first thing to greet you today. What greets you is space, room, the sensation of arriving back into a version of yourself that had been partially out of reach for a long season. That version of you is not a fantasy conjured by wishful thinking. There are two versions of you, the one sitting in that morning, awake and present and at home in themselves, and the version reading these words right now carrying the weight of the in-between. The distance between the two of you is not circumstance. It is not the resolution of what you are waiting for. It is a brain returned to coordination and a nervous system released from the alert state. The provision closes that distance. The window makes the provision accessible. I also want to speak to what happens in the body during the 4 weeks of receiving the provision, because the picture of the progression is itself part of what makes the provision easy to receive. You are not committing to something indefinite or something that requires months before any result is visible. The first week changes the sleep. The second week changes the mornings. The third week changes the presence in the relationships around you. The fourth week changes the interior space. The compression releases. The contracted version of you begins to expand back toward its original dimensions. 4 weeks, 28 daily practices at 8 minutes each. That is the investment of time, less than 4 hours total. And from that investment, the compound restoration I have been describing unfolds. This is not a minor thing being purchased with a minor investment. This is a significant restoration being produced by a deceptively simple access point, because I do not require complexity when simplicity is sufficient. And 8 minutes of coordinated brain function is sufficient to open the door to the full depth of restoration that the season has made necessary. I want you to hold that picture as you consider whether to receive what is in the description. 4 weeks. The first week changes the sleep, the last week changes the interior, and every week of the new season that begins after that is built on a different foundation than the one you have been living on during the season you are completing. That is what I have placed in this window for you. The same provision, the same 8-minute daily practice, the same neurological coordination that produces the same restoration in the body that has been holding the same kind of weight. It is in the description. It is available right now, inside the window that has a clock. I want to speak to the people in your life who will benefit from your receiving this, because you do not receive this for yourself alone. You receive it for everyone whose life is affected by what version of you is available to them. The contracted version that has been the operating version during the hard season has been giving what it had, which was less than the full amount. The relationships around you have been receiving the reduced bandwidth expression of who you are. The children, or the partner, or the friends, or the colleagues. All of them have been receiving a version of you that had less of you in it because the sustained season was consuming more of you than normal, and they have been feeling it, even if no one named it. When the restoration happens, what the relationships receive changes. Not because you try harder, because more of you is available without trying. The nervous system no longer consuming the majority of the resources on the management of the sustained imbalance means those resources are available for the people who need them. The listening becomes fuller. The presence becomes wider. The capacity for the genuine quality of engagement that the full version of you provides returns to the relationships that have been waiting for it. That is part of what is in the window, not only for you, for the people who receive you. The blessing extends outward through you to everyone in range of who you are when you are operating at the level you were designed for. I want to speak to the relationship between the practical provision and the timed window, because some of you are wondering why these two things are in the same message. The urgent message about the timed blessing and the specific provision for the body, they are in the same message because they are part of the same provision. The blessing I am releasing in this window is not only spiritual, it is whole person, word, and bridge. Spiritual declaration and practical tool. Both are the blessing. Both are timed. Both are available right now. Stay with me. In the next part, I want to give you the full structure of what is available, the specific details of the provision and what it contains, and then I want to give you the final word of this message. The word about the clock and what it means for the person who receives in the window. Stay. Chosen one, I want to give you the full structure of what is available in this window, because I have been speaking about the provision, and I want to make sure nothing is vague or undefined when you go to receive it. Vagueness is one of the things that enables the postponement I spoke about earlier. When what is being offered is specific and clear, the reception is easier. and I want the reception to be easy. So let me be specific and clear. The provision is called the genius switch. That is the name Dr. Daniel Barone gave to what he built. The name reflects what it does. It switches the brain from the divided, fragmented state that the sustained hard season produces into the unified, coordinated state that the design intended. The switch happens in 8 minutes of daily practice. And when the switch happens, the body and the mind and the spirit have a different experience of everything that follows. I also want to speak to the timing of receiving it in the context of what I said about the window, because the window is not only about the spiritual alignment, it is also about the practical one. The current access point of $39 is available in this window. That pricing does not remain at every moment. What I have arranged in this specific window includes both the spiritual alignment and the practical access at the level I described. Receiving it now is receiving the complete provision of the window. Receiving it later, in a different configuration, may still be receiving something good, but it is not the same as receiving the complete provision of this window. The window has content, and the content is available now. The clock is not only about urgency, it is about access to the full configuration of what I prepared. And the full configuration includes the $39 access point. Go to it in this window. I want to speak to the specific mechanism one more time because I want this to be fully understood. The brain was designed to operate with both hemispheres in coordination. When they coordinate, the information processing that happens is qualitatively different from the processing that happens when they are operating in parallel. The creative and the analytical work together rather than competing. The intuitive and the logical integrate. The right hemisphere, which processes experience, relationships, and spiritual perception, works in concert with the left hemisphere, which processes language, structure, and analysis. When these two are working together, the quality of everything that happens in the person is elevated, the rest is deeper, the clarity is greater, the presence is wider. The spiritual perception is more available because the right hemisphere, which is primary in spiritual experience, is working in its intended integration with the left, rather than being partially occluded by the competition between them. I placed whole brain activation in this window because the window is a spiritual moment that requires the full brain to receive it fully. That is why the provision and the timing are connected. The timed blessing requires the coordinated brain for full reception, and the provision is what produces the coordinated brain. They are designed for each other. I want to speak to what happens in the spirit when the body begins to restore, because this is the dimension that connects everything I have been saying. The spiritual experience of someone in the coordinated brain state is different from the spiritual experience of someone in the divided brain state. Not because the spiritual reality is different, because the receiver of the spiritual reality is different. The receiver is more open, more available, more capable of experiencing what has always been there. The sense of being heard that has sometimes felt distant during the hard season. The sense of being guided that has sometimes felt like it was reaching you through static. The sense of the connection between us that has sometimes felt like it required more effort to access than it used to. All of that changes when the brain coordinates. Not because I changed, because the instrument through which you receive what I give has returned to the state in which it was designed to receive. That is one of the most significant things the provision produces. Not the sleep, though that matters. Not the mornings, though those matter too. The return of the clear, direct, unfiltered quality of connection between you and me. The noise lifting. The signal arriving clean. The relationship between us experienced in the full quality it was always designed for. This is inside the window. This is part of the blessing. This is what the clock is ticking toward. I want to speak to the seed I planted about Ellie, because there is one more dimension of her experience I want to give you. When the 4-week compound effect had fully taken hold, she described something I want to name here. She said her spiritual perception had changed. The quality of the connection between us, which had been present throughout the season but often felt like it was reaching her through a layer of noise, was suddenly more direct, more immediate. The noise had been the divided brain, processing the connection through the competition between the hemispheres, rather than receiving it in the integration they were designed for. When the integration returned, the connection became what it always was underneath the noise. Direct, clear, home. I am telling you this because it is relevant to the timed blessing. The window I am opening today is not only a window of practical provision, it is a window of deepened connection. And the provision I am giving addresses the neurological condition that has been filtering the connection through more noise than I designed the connection to travel through. When the filter lifts, you will experience what Ellie experienced. The connection that was always there becoming what it was always designed to be. Now, I want to give you the specific details clearly so that nothing is left unclear. The investment is $39 today, the listed price is $49, and the window price is $39. I want to name the accounting explicitly. What I am asking you to invest is less than the cost of 1 day of the depletion continuing unaddressed, the sleep that does not fully restore, the mourning that carries the weight it should not be carrying, the bandwidth that is available to the people who need you being narrower than what they deserve from the full version of who you are. When you measure $39 against those costs, the accounting speaks clearly. The guarantee is 60 days, 2 complete months. If the restoration I am describing does not begin to show in the sleep and the mornings and the interior space and the relationships within 60 days of daily practice, the investment returns in full. Not a conditional return, not a partial one, the full amount. The guarantee exists because what Dr. Barone built works and works consistently, and he is confident enough in the consistency to offer the full return guarantee for 60 days without reservation. 4 bonuses come with the core practice. A resource specifically on mental clarity for people coming out of seasons of sustained cognitive demand. A guide on sleep architecture, the specific cycles the body needs to move through for the restoration I have described to be complete. A protocol specifically on the body-stress relationship, which addresses what the sustained season has done at the physiological level in a targeted way, and a guide on the brain-body connection, which provides the complete picture of the mechanism that the core practice opens access to. All 4 come with the $39 investment. All 4 are part of the full provision that is in the window right now. I want to speak to the counterfeit issue directly, because I would not have you receive something that is not what I have prepared. What Dr. Barone built is specific. It is built on specific research, on specific methodology, on the specific Nobel Prize science that established the foundation. There are offerings that use similar language, hemisphere coordination, brain activation, unified function, that are built on a different and shallower foundation. They produce surface effects. They do not address the neurological root. The link in the description takes you to the original, the thing itself, built on the foundation that makes it work. Go to that link. Do not be drawn to a version that is not what I placed in this window. I want to address the person who is still calculating, still weighing, still holding the information at a slight distance while the internal decision-making process runs through its considerations. I see you. I am speaking to you specifically now. The calculation is not wrong. The information deserves consideration. But I want to add one piece of information to the calculation that may not yet be in it. The consideration time has a cost. Every day that the calculation continues is a day the divided brain continues to operate in the divided state. Every day that the provision is not received is a day the sleep continues at the quality it has been. Every day that the clock continues to run is a day that the provision I arranged in this window remains unaccepted. I am not telling you this to produce pressure. I am telling you this because it is true, and you deserve to have the full picture when you are calculating. The cost of receiving is $39.08 a day for the restoration of the body and the deepening of the connection and the beginning of the season. I am bringing on the other side of this. The cost of not receiving is the continuation of the current state for another day, and then another, and then another. That is the full accounting. Make the calculation, with all of it included. The link is in the description. That is the access point. That is where you go to receive the practical half of what this window contains. Go there, now, while the clock is running, while the window is open, while the alignment I arranged is in place. The provision is waiting, and the window has a duration, and this is the moment. Chosen one, I want to close this message with the final word I have been building toward. The word about the clock and what it means, not just as urgency, but as the deeper statement about how I work and what this moment represents in the larger story of your life. The clock tells you when the window is open, but the clock also tells you something else. It tells you that what I am giving in this window was prepared with enough specificity that it has a time signature. Things that are not prepared do not have specific times. Random events are timeless because no one arranged them. But the provision I am releasing in this window has a time because I arranged it. and the arrangement tells you that you are in a story that is being written, not simply a life that is happening. That distinction matters. A life that is simply happening has no prepared windows. It has experiences, but not arrangements. It has moments, but not moments that were set aside for specific purposes. The life you are in is not that kind. The life you are in has a narrative. It has a direction. It has moments that I prepared before they arrived, and this is one of those moments. The clock is evidence of the preparation, and the preparation is evidence of the narrative, and the narrative is evidence that you are not alone in what you are living. I want to dwell a moment on what the narrative I am describing means for how you interpret the hard season you have been in, because the hard season is part of the narrative too, not an interruption to it, not a detour, not a place where the story stalled while waiting for the real story to resume. The hard season is a chapter in the narrative. It is the chapter that built what the window requires to enter. It is the chapter whose content, whose formation, whose sustained trust, without visible evidence, was producing the version of you who could receive what is in this window in the way it needs to be received. You cannot receive the full weight of a prepared window without the preparation that the path to it required. The person who arrives at a significant provision without having been through the season that preceded it can receive it, but they receive it differently, with less understanding of what it cost, with less rootedness in the trust that its arrival confirms, with less capacity to carry what the provision opens into. The path was not separate from the destination. It was the preparation for it. And the preparation produced someone specific, you, the version of you that arrived here through everything you walked through. That version is precisely calibrated for what is in this window, not by accident. By the design of the one who arranged both the path and the window and knew, before either began, exactly who would arrive at the window through the path. That is you, and you are here, and the window is open. I want to speak to what it means to receive in the window versus receiving after the window, because both are possible, and I want you to understand the difference. Receiving in the window is receiving the provision in the configuration I prepared it in, at the alignment I arranged, at the access point I set. It is the complete form of the provision. Receiving after the window is still receiving something good, because I do not stop giving. But what comes after a window is not the same as what was inside it. The window has the full configuration, the specific alignment of the practical provision at the specific access point, and the specific spiritual alignment of your readiness and my preparation, and the specific moment in your story where the receiving happens. All of those things are in alignment right now. They will not all be in alignment in the same configuration after the window closes. That is not a threat. It is an honest description of how the windows I prepare work. The fullness of what I prepared is in the window. Receive in the window. I want to address the ones who are afraid of making a mistake, who have received things before that seemed right in the moment and turned out to be something different, who have learned, through experience, to be cautious about things that carry urgency. I want to speak to that caution with respect and with directness at the same time. The caution you have developed is not wrong. It has protected you. But it is now operating in a moment where the thing being offered is not the thing the caution was developed to protect you from. The caution was developed for things that were not genuinely from me, for things that used the language of urgency to produce response in the absence of genuine provision. What I am offering today is genuinely from me. I placed it here. I arranged the window. I prepared the provision. I am speaking the word. The caution can remain as discernment, as the ability to distinguish between what is genuine and what is not. And the discernment, applied here, will find genuine. Trust the discernment. Let it look clearly at what is in front of you, and when it has looked clearly, receive what it confirms is real. I want to speak to the quality of the trust required to step into the window, because trust is always what the window requires, not certainty, not full information, not a guarantee of every dimension of what comes after. Trust, the willingness to step into what I prepared without being able to verify from the outside what the inside contains. That willingness is what the step into the window requires, and I know you have it. I know you have it because you have been exercising it throughout the season that led here. The trust that held when the evidence was limited is the same trust that steps into the window when the window appears. The season was not only formation of what the new season requires, it was also the training of the trust that the window requires. The trust that says yes without needing every question answered first. The trust that can tell the difference between the caution that discerns and the hesitation that postpones. The trust that recognizes a prepared window when it appears and steps into it while it is open. That trust has been growing in you. It is grown enough. Step. The step is not complicated. It does not require more preparation. It does not require a specific state of inner readiness beyond what you have right now. The window is open to the version of you that is here right now. That is the version it was prepared for. The step is available to you in this form, in this condition, in this moment. And the step is simple. The link is in the description. That is the step. I also want to speak to the moment after the receiving, because the moment after the receiving is part of the window too. Not just the decision to receive, but what happens in you when the decision is made. When the window is entered, when what I prepared is accepted rather than postponed, there is something I want you to know will happen in that moment. The sense of being inside the provision, of having stepped into what was prepared rather than standing outside it looking at it. The alignment of your action with the specific moment I arranged is felt, not as a feeling that I programmed to incentivize the action, as the natural experience of a person whose action and the prepared moment have come into agreement. That experience is real, and I want you to know it is coming, so that when it arrives, you receive it as what it is, rather than explaining it away. The window is ready. The provision is in the description. The clock is still running. Remember what I called this moment. The Kairos window. It was never an ordinary moment in the scroll of an ordinary day. It was always a prepared threshold, marked by time, held open by grace, waiting for the version of you who was ready to step through. I also want to speak to what the provision produces in the weeks that follow for the relationship between you and me. Because the restoration of the body and the return of the coordinated brain state has a spiritual dimension that I have touched on, and I want to give it the full space it deserves here at the close. When the nervous system releases from the sustained alert state, the capacity for the still kind of hearing that I most often use to speak becomes available again. The quiet register, the whisper, the impression, the sense of direction that I give in the moments of silence between the movements of the day, all of that requires the kind of interior quiet that the sustained alert state was not producing. The interior was occupied with the management of the imbalanced cycle, and in the occupied interior, the quiet register was harder to access. When the restoration completes, when the interior space expands and the noise of the divided brain lifts, that register becomes available again. The communication between us that has been happening but arriving at reduced clarity begins to arrive at full clarity. And the relationship we have, which has been real throughout the hard season even when it felt partial, becomes fully available in its intended form. Unreduced, clear, direct, the way I designed it to be. That is inside the window too. That is what the provision produces beyond the sleep and the mornings, the fullness of what we were designed to have. I want to give you one more picture before I close. The picture of you on the other side of the window, not as a fantasy, as an accurate description of what I see when I see where the path leads from here. The version of you on the other side of this window is not burdened by what the path brought. The formation is there. The rootedness is there. The depth of trust that the season produced is there. But the weight of the carrying is not. The weight served its purpose. It produced what the path required it to produce. And on the other side of the window, the weight is no longer needed, so it is not there. What is there is the full version of you, operating at the level I designed you for, bringing that level to the relationships and the work and the calling that are waiting on the other side, for the person who walked through the preparation and received the provision and stepped through the window in the moment it was open. That person is you, and the other side is close. The step is the link in the description. I want to make the final declaration of this message now, because declarations belong at the close of significant messages, and this is a significant message. The declaration is this: I release the blessing in this window over you now, not conditionally, not pending further confirmation of your worthiness or your readiness or your circumstances. Now, in this moment, the blessing is released, the window is open, the provision is in the description. The clock is running, and I have said everything I came to say. What remains is the receiving, and the receiving belongs to you. It is the one part of this exchange that I do not do for you. I prepare, I arrange, I open the window, I release the blessing, I speak the word, and then I wait, with full confidence and no anxiety, for you to step into what has been prepared. I wait because I know you, and I know that the version of you that received this word to this point is the version that receives fully. The link is in the description. Go there now. The window is open and the blessing is released and the clock is running and everything I prepared for this moment is waiting for one more thing from you. The step. Take it. The provision is there. The window is now. I will be with you when you arrive.